Thanks to all the subscribers. Please like, subscribe, and comment. With that out of the way, let's get into it. A local Florida weed dealer and his family found themselves in the crosshairs of a sex money murder blood gang stick-up crew. The stick-up crew was comprised of 5 gunmen: Rodney Street, also known as Buck; Quandavise Street, also known as Stump; DeAndre Powell, also known as Tooley; and Quartervis Crawley; and last of the crew, Artavia Smith. On a beautiful Sunday afternoon, a family was enjoying the day in their modest home, unaware of the impending terror that loomed. There was a secret that the family was unaware of. The father of the family made a living secretly selling marijuana illegally, a venture he would surely regret. On May 29th, 2019, just after 1 p.m., Dustin and Dewana Broom were in their home with 4 of their children in Lakeland, Florida, when out of nowhere men armed with handguns and an AK-47 appeared in the front yard. The men grabbed their friend who was sitting in the front yard. They put a gun to the man's head. They were attempting to use the man to gain entry to the house where their true target was. The men pushed through the front door, pointing their weapons at everyone inside the dwelling. As the men entered the home, Dustin Broom, the would-be weed dealer, grabbed his children and threw them through an open window in an attempt to get them to safety.
Run to the neighbor's backyard.
Broom then jumps out of the window, landing in his backyard. He quickly looks for means to defend himself. He grabbed his 2 pit bulls and a shovel. Making a quick decision, Broom decided to go back into the house to save his wife, Dewana. When he gets back into the house, Broom was horrified by what he saw. The brutish gunmen were pistol whipping his defenseless wife, Dewana. However, Dustin Broom wasn't having it. He bravely ran towards the gunmen and began swinging the shovel at them. Violently striking the men repeatedly, the gunmen would take off in flight. They fled with $3,000 in cash, gold jewelry, and a pound of marijuana. The heroic father, Dustin, would later admit to the police that he sells marijuana from his home. The neighbors were in disbelief of what they saw happening. Neighbors watched as the man carrying the AK-47 ran through their front yard. The chaos was far from over. Dewana managed to run out of the front door while Dustin was attacking the intruders. She frantically ran towards a friend's car, an Audi that was still running. Dewana jumped into the Audi and took off in pursuit of the gunmen. In the normally quiet neighborhood lined with modest 1960s cinder block homes, Dewana was in hot pursuit of the gunmen trying to flee on foot. She tried to run one over, but she narrowly missed, instead hitting a trash can, which knocked the man down to the ground. The gunman would quickly recover. He then shot at her, firing multiple rounds into the car. However, Dewana was not struck by any of the rounds. She was uninjured. A teenager neighbor witnessed the chaos. I grabbed the baby, I grabbed my dog, and I ran in, and then all of a sudden I started hearing gunshots. She had been sitting on her front porch with her toddler cousin. The neighbor also saw the gunman drop a valuable piece of evidence for the gang force detectives: his cell phone. The black and gray iPhone left behind at the scene would come back to haunt the gunman. The phone was a treasure trove for the police. It contained names, photos, text messages, all linking him and his fellow gang members to that crime and others. Game over. The police quickly discovered the phone belonged to Artavia Smith. Ironically enough, Artavius was arrested during an unrelated traffic stop more than an hour after the home invasion. It was only a matter of time at that point. Within days, investigators also arrested Rodney Street, aka Buck, Quandavise Street, aka Stump, Quartervis Crawley, and DeAndre Powell, also known as Tooley. The gunmen were all charged with the home invasion. Tooley's cell phone was also recovered. They found Rodney Street, aka Buck's Facebook page. On the page, police would find a photo of most of the gunmen leaning on a light blue Toyota Camry that was used during the home invasion. The photo was taken when Rodney Street got home from prison the day before the home invasion. In addition, several are tied to home invasions elsewhere in the county. The gunmen were part of a larger investigation into the SMM organization in Florida. Reading the affidavit on the sex money murder gang is to delve into a foreign world for most people, one with its own language, its own rules, and its own symbols and signs, sounding more like a Martin Scorsese screenplay than real life. The future for the gunmen would not turn out well. Florida isn't known for being lenient with its criminals, and the prisons are some of the most notorious in the nation. First up is Rodney Street, 27, nicknamed Buck. In April 2022, the state attorney's office dropped all charges because of insufficient evidence. In April 2020, he was charged with committing a sex act in the presence of a female corrections detention employee for intentionally and willfully masturbating. He represented himself in court. In April 2022, the state decided not to prosecute that case. In March 2022, he was charged in the Rico gang case and is currently in the Polk County Jail awaiting trial. Then we have Quandavisi Street 26, also known as Stump. In December 2019, he was charged with introducing contraband into the Polk County Jail for having a homemade weapon, a third-degree felony. He pleaded no contest, was found guilty, and sentenced to time already served in the jail. In October 2022, all charges in the home invasion case were dropped by the state attorney's office for insufficient evidence. On July 5th, he was charged with domestic violence and is awaiting trial. He bonded out of jail on July 8th. The next gunman is DeAndre Powell, 26, nicknamed Thule. In June 2022, the state attorney's office dropped all charges, saying the victims refused to cooperate. In February 2022, he was charged with conspiracy to traffic in synthetic marijuana, conspiracy to introduce contraband into the Polk County Jail, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. Using jailhouse recorded telephones, he asked others to spray the inside pages of a Quran with synthetic cannabis and ship him the book from the bookstore so he could sell the pages to other inmates. In December, he was found guilty and sentenced to 152 days in jail, the time he had served awaiting trial. He was recently sentenced to 50 years in prison on state charges of racketeering. 50 years, that's crazy. Next step, we have Artavius Smith, 23. 3 years after the 2019 home invasion, he pled guilty to shooting into an occupied vehicle and a delinquent in possession of a firearm. The state decided not to prosecute him on the charges of attempted murder, burglary of a dwelling with assault while armed with a firearm, or robbery with a firearm. In July 2022, he was sentenced to 36 months in prison. Because he had already served 3 years awaiting trial for 3 years, he was placed on community-controlled probation for 2 years. In February 2023, he was arrested for violation of probation for domestic violence, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, shooting into a building, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He remains in the Polk County Jail, awaiting trial. Finally, and last but not least, we have Quartavis Crawley, 30. In August 2019, all charges were dropped by the state attorney's office. In November 2022, he was arrested on 3 outstanding warrants, including armed burglary out of Hillsborough County. He remains in the Hillsborough County Jail. The affidavit also showed that gang members pay dues, hold national conferences, and host formal dress parties. They use money from drug sales money and membership dues to pay the legal fees of members who are arrested and face trials. They even do background checks on potential members using clerks of courts' websites. There are initiations involving brutal beatings, drug dealing, and violent retribution for anyone who steps out of line. Members commit armed home invasions, and there was at least 1 murder tied to a local SMM gang member. The years-long multi-agency investigation involved local and state detectives who used recorded jail and prison phone and video calls, along with jail emails and snail mail, phone apps, law enforcement surveillance, security camera videos, and street work. Out of the 41 identified, 12 were charged with racketeering for their role in directing members in organized criminal activity, such as illegal drug sales, robberies, home invasions, introduction of contraband into prisons, conspiracy to commit murder, and coordinated attacks on other gang members. In some cases, the gang members were in prison or the county jail and still conducting and coordinating gang business. We are not going to put up with these gangs brazenly coordinating and committing crimes in our communities, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said at the time of the last arrest. They are an organized criminal enterprise, ruthlessly focused on violence, theft, fraud, and profiting from the human misery and violence of the illegal drug trade. It was all good just a week ago, I suppose. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Although there are convictions in this matter, I must stress that an indictment is not evidence of guilt. Charges are only allegations, and each defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Blessings. Luke 17:3-4. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him.